We've reached the end of our term just about in Psych 250, and so these are the details about your final project. This is a big deal project. It replaces a final exam, and the title of the project is Generating Change. So take your time to view this video with care because this is a big proportion of your grade. So this is what we will be taking a look at for your final project. So we've been talking all this term about the psychological dynamics of social interactions, including most recently the tools of power and influence. Now what you're going to need to do is to use all this information to create a real life change plan for some behavior that would benefit your community, your clan, or your cohort. So you're now asked to use the tools that you were given in this course. And just to put this into context, in your recent participation, I asked you whether there was a behavior that you saw in people around you that you thought would benefit by changing. So you might focus on that behavior. Some of you named like getting animals spayed and neutered, or stopping littering, or mask wearing. Those are some of the ideas that you had, so you might want to go with something like that. So that's what you're going to do, develop this plan. And I want you to think about this plan as something that you might actually take the lead on. You might actually spearhead. This might be one of those beautiful efforts that you put forward that would be put onto your resume and help you get jobs in the future. Maybe you can picture yourself after you develop this plan and share it in our class. Maybe you can adapt your presentation and find a way to make this to, say, your community board or a contingent at the university that might be able to provide you with the resources that you need to actually make this change happen. So I'd like you to think about it that way. And when you watch your classmates' presentations later on, I'd like you to think about those that way too, as something that could really happen, that the individuals in this class could spearhead. So the dates and deadlines for the project are stated on this slide. On October 30th, you'll submit the topic for the change project. November 27th, almost a month later, you'll submit your first draft of your presentation slides and your title and abstract. That's after Thanksgiving break, so you'll have Thanksgiving break to work on those, all of that week actually of Thanksgiving. December 1st, you're submitting your final slides and your URL for presentation, and you're signing up for the conference sessions. I'll put a little program out and you can sign up. December 2 through 5th, you're gonna attend the conference. December 5th, you will submit feedback. By December 5th, you'll submit feedback and grading forms to the conference presenters, and all responses to feedback and the end of the semester will be December 7th. So the first thing you're going to do is prepare yourself. You're first going to figure out what this behavior is in your community, cohort, or clan. And this will be a group, like something that a group is doing. You're not going to be working at, say, getting your partner or your spouse to exercise more or getting your kids to play less video games. You're going to be focusing on a behavior that a lot of people have and focusing on like a large scale change like that, not an individual change. The change will occur within individuals, but we're looking to change the behavior of many individuals, not just one. So there are certain pages in your textbook that you're going to reread, and I've actually numbered those on subsequent pages, so that's why I've highlighted it here. You're going to be reading one of a number of articles from The Social Animal to see examples of how these plans are put together like in a social psych way. You're going to look at a value scale, which is going to help you to assess the values of your target audience, those people you wish to change. And you'll be watching a little video on motivational interviewing, and this will prepare you to talk to people who you're trying to work with or understand better. For the second part of your presentation, you will create and submit your presentation. So you'll see the steps laid out here, and I'll give you more detail on subsequent slides. But first you'll be describing the behavior you'd like to change, then identifying and describing the target audience. And then you'll learn about the target audience, so that's quite a lot of detail in there. And then you'll create a message tailored to that audience. And those two steps, 3 and 4, are weighted more heavily than the rest of them because that's the bulk of the content of your assignment. You'll develop an implementation plan. You'll double check that you've sourced all your information. You'll download templates and fill in your writing. And continuing to step 8, you will record the 12-minute presentation in PowerPoint, create a URL for your presentation, and submit everything. And after that, you will move on to step 3. For part 3, you will be attending the conference. Begin by looking over the conference program. And number 2, rank the presentations you'd like to attend in order of preference. And in step 3, you'll view your assigned presentations. You might not get exactly all the presentations you want, because we want to make sure everybody's presentation gets viewed. In step 4, you'll provide specific feedback to each presenter about what you thought was very good, a suggestion to make the plan better, and a question. Step 5, you'll grade each presentation with a grading form and submit it to me. Step 6, you'll respond to the feedback your classmates gave you. And step 7, you'll respond to your instructor's feedback. So here are the detailed steps. First, you're going to prepare by reading the material on the slide that was shown earlier. So that is on the slide that showed the readings and the motivational interviewing. Secondly, So the first thing you'll do is describe the behavior. So you'll first identify the behavior. What behavior is it that you'd like to change in your clan, community, or cohort? We'll focus on the group behavior, not the behavior of just one individual for the purposes of this class. And you'll describe the behavior. So what exactly is the behavior? How do we know what it looks like? How often does it happen, or how bad is it? Could it be stated as a positive, like take your trash with you versus stop littering? Think about it. Goal, what would be a realistic change goal? You can't say you're going to end all littering forever in your region. So what would be realistic? How much of a reduction would you like to see? And how will you measure it? How are you going to keep track of whether your goal has been met? Are you going to weigh the trash or pick up pieces of trash, or how could you do it realistically without too much trouble? Step 2, you're going to define the audience. So who is it that's doing this behavior that you want to change? Is there a particular age group? Is this young people, older, mixed age, teens? Is it primarily female, primarily male? Anything like that going on, or is that mixed? What is the culture? This could be based on ethnicity, like this is the behavior of more of Navajo people or Melagana, or it could be a different sort of culture, like a culture based on shared values, norms, or activities, like teenage skateboarders, for example, or partiers, or people who work together, or people who do a certain kind of job, or people who go fishing, something like that. So what's the culture? What are the norms, And that's similar to the last question. Do they share some sort of a common characteristic? So what do you know about this audience? And you'll be including a source here. You don't want to just guess at this, and this is indicated in the slides. Then this is probably the more challenging task. You need to learn about this target audience, because we often have assumptions that turn out not to be true. And so here's where you're going to have to use your judgment about what's best. The best option would be to talk to people. And this isn't talking to people in a judgmental way. So this is the challenge. So if you feel really angry about the behavior you're trying to change, then you might not be, if you can't get past that, to just listen to people, then you might not be best off talking to people, because I don't want anyone to get into any kind of angry interaction here. But if you can nurture in yourself an attitude of curiosity of respect for fellow human beings making a different decision than you for their own reasons, and you want to learn about their reasons. So if you can have this in your heart, this respect, this interest, curiosity, kindness, while you're talking to them, then this might be good for you to just find a couple people and talk to them. And I include for you all to watch this link to motivational interviewing. And the reason I include it is not because you're going to conduct this, it's a therapeutic technique, but because in this kind of process, this attitude of respect is nourished. And this way of asking open-ended questions is nourished. And if you watch this video, you'll get a sense of what that would feel like to talk to someone who's engaging in a behavior that isn't great, in a way that helps to understand the behavior without judging the individual. So I recommend talking to people. However, if it seems dangerous, like if it's, drug users, or they might have some sort of a characteristic that would make them a threat to you, you don't want to do it that way then. Then you need to find other sources of information to learn about the audience. And so you don't want to use just gossip. Maybe you can find some official resources in research, that would be great, or maybe even just a news story, but it's up to you to find out about your people, but it's got to be outside of just your own perspectives or judgments, and it can't be just gossip. And what you want to learn about them? You want to learn about how they think, and you want to learn about their attitude toward the behavior. So how do they think? So in this case, what values do they hold? What do they value? Remember, we've learned about how we can use values to design a plan. So you might look at what I attached for you, the value sort inventory, and it just lists values. And you could give this to people if you're talking to them and they could tell you, or you could just look at the list of values to get some ideas about what we mean when we're talking about values. Then secondly, see if you can find out what sources they believe. Like who or what do they trust as credible sources of information? Elders or doctors? Teachers? Do they trust teachers or not? Parents? Do they trust conservative or liberal news sources? Books? Fellow teens? Some sort of a leader teen? Who do these people trust as sources? And then thirdly, see what you can do to get a sense of what their need for cognition is. A lot of people in academia, like me, really need to think about things a lot and understand them before you're going to persuade me. Like that's going to be something that would be important. So what about your audience? Are they people who just prefer to make quick on-the-fly decisions, or do they like to think deeply? How could you learn about this? And then third thing is to learn about their attitude toward this behavior. So what do they believe about this behavior? What motivates them to do or not to do this behavior? What are the obstacles or the facilitators? What do they know about the consequences of this behavior? What social norms do they follow with respect to this behavior? Do they want to change the behavior? If so, what barriers or obstacles prevent them? So each of you has a different project, and this will look a little different for each of you, but we need to see something about their values and about their thinking in general, and something about this attitude that they have toward the behavior. And sources are needed, not just guesswork. So step 4, you're going to use this information you've gathered about your audience to create the right message. So you're going to think about how your message targets your audience, and here's where you'll reread pages 248 to 252 to think about the central or peripheral route, what source, how much vividness, that sort of thing. Then you're going to address resistance, and here you're going to have to go back to pages 260 and 265 and just reread it and think about how you could target this like attitudinal resistance. And then also you might go back to chapter 7 and think about dissonance. Like, could you use dissonance? Like if they have values that are in conflict with this behavior, could you use dissonance? And here are some of these articles, and you're going to choose an article in Social Animal. One of them might help you here. Influence, informational and social influence were described on pages 274 to 278. You'll need to address this. And then your approach. Are you going to use form-based approach, reasoned, emotion-based, a little of each. How can you take advantage of this? And the page references are 287 to 296. Next, you're going to develop your plan, and this is like just putting it together in something that could actually be done. So the message is like the concept, and then the plan are like the step-by-steps. And you can see some procedures, whatever article or articles, if you're really on top of things, you choose in the social animal, you'll see how they did it, how they actually did it. And then you're going to be thinking about what support, what funds you need, what materials you need. You're going to think about how you're going to assess your outcomes, and you're going to put together a timeline. Next, you're going to develop your plan, and this is like just putting it together in something that could actually be done. So the message is like the concept, and then the plan are like the step-by-steps. And you can see some procedures, whatever article or articles, if you're really on top of things, you choose in the social animal, you'll see how they did it, how they actually did it. And then you're going to be thinking about what support, what funds you need, what materials you need. You're going to think about how you're going to assess your outcomes, and you're going to put together a timeline. That's it. Then you can download your templates and prepare your slides. The template is, I put together the slides for you, and I will show them to you in a separate link soon. And you just download it, and it tells you what to do on each slide, and then you can just replace it with your content. You're going to be adding speaker notes to each slide, and you'll see how to do that. And then you have to submit it by the deadline along with the URL to your Zoom presentation, otherwise you can't participate in the discussion. Next, you will be recording your presentation. I recommend that you use Record Slideshow in PowerPoint to do this. The reason I recommend it is that it gives you a chance to, if you make a mistake on one slide, you don't have to do the whole presentation over. You can just re-record the audio for that one slide. So first off, you need to practice your presentation. It has to be 12 minutes long, give or take a minute, but not more than that. This is something you'll have to do whenever you present for the rest of your life, is to watch your time. So you might as well start here. So in PowerPoint, you'll see the instructions as follow. And it just doesn't make sense for me to read this because it's all here. So follow this written instructions to do that when you're ready to do it. In step 8, you need to create a URL for your presentation. You can do this in a number of ways. You can share your presentation via OneDrive, which is accessible in Microsoft 365 on the My DC portal site. Or if you use Dropbox, you can share a link like I do for sharing materials, or you can upload to YouTube with a privacy setting to ensure that the general public can't view your video. So if you're using OneDrive or Dropbox, it'll be up to you to find out the way to do that. You should be able to search it quite easily on Google and find out how to do it. Likewise, if you're using YouTube, I've provided a link. There are instructions here on how to do it. And so please choose the way that's most comfortable for you, and do make sure that your link works before you submit your assignment. After that, you will be submitting your project. So you will be required to submit your title and abstract in advance of your presentation. And this is so that I can create a conference program for everybody to be able to choose which sessions they wish to attend. So on your title requirements, you want to choose a really precise title for your presentation. It should be something like one engaging word or phrase followed by a clear description of the contents of your presentation, including the behavior that should be changed and the audience for the change. And the reason for this is you want people to be able to just glance at your title to know if your talk is going to be relevant to their interests. So I have a few example titles. Here's a project promoting water conservation. Clean and aware, decreasing water waste during showers in a college dormitory. So here you can see we've tried to get attention, and we've been very clear about the change we're seeking and where we're doing it. Example title for a project to encourage people to let roads dry out before driving on them. Bottoming out, discouraging driving in wet conditions on a newly graded dirt road. Example title for a proposal to decrease procrastination among college students. On time and in charge, altering procrastination habits in college students. You will also be creating an abstract and submitting it at the same time as you submit your title. So it's just a very short paragraph, one paragraph, not more than 150 words. Describes the contents of your presentation, explaining 4 specific aspects. 1, behavior. What behavior are you changing and why? 2, the audience. What audience will you be targeting for your plan? 3, your message. What message will be proposed to alter this behavior? And 4, implementation. How are you going to deliver this message to the audience? So implementation is implementation of sharing this presentation in order to facilitate change. And you can see in the example, the blue corresponds to the blue up above. This presentation describes a plan to discourage people from driving on newly graded dirt roads when they are wet to prevent ruts and erosion and improve safety. The purple is the audience. The message will be targeted to residents living at any location along the road who use the road, who comprise families using the road for supplies and work-related needs. 3, the message. What are you proposing? The message deemed best suited to this audience revolves around A, safety of others, B, education about road care, and C, alternative options. And 4, implementation. The message will be delivered via a series of signs located every 1/8 mile along the dirt road in question. Submit your presentation slides and URL. Your presentation slides will be submitted twice, first your first draft, and then I'll give you feedback, and then you'll submit a second draft. So I'll use these so that I can really grade carefully the content of your presentation. So make sure you proofread your slides. You can use spell check in the review menu to catch those little things that you might miss otherwise. Make sure that you have short bulleted points, not big long paragraphs. And include speaker notes in your presentation. So one way, when you put short points, you have to remember what you're about to talk about, and your speaker notes will help you with that. And then your URL you will submit, and just double check to make sure that the link works before you submit it. I don't want to run into any challenges with that, so you might want to ask someone who has a different email address than you to just check your link and see if it works. And make sure these are submitted on time so that I can make sure that your presentation is included and that you can get your full points and your full role in this end of semester work. And lastly, you'll participate in the conference. And I already gave you instructions earlier for how you are to participate, and so I won't repeat those now. So choose the sessions you want to attend. You'll be ranking actually. You'll look over the conference program and rank the sessions that most interest you, and I'll assign you to sessions based on that. You'll be submitting that in an assignment box, so there will be all of the lists of all of the options, and in that box you'll rank them. You'll be asked to provide feedback for the presentations you're assigned to. So you'll have a grade sheet that you will complete, and I'll show you what it is. I haven't linked it yet, but I will link it just now. So you'll complete a grade sheet for each presentation you view, and you'll submit those grade sheets to the instructor in the assignment box, and I will send them on to the presenter with nothing to do with your name on it. And so you'll want to do the grades with as much care and honesty as possible. And then your feedback will be provided directly to the presenter in the discussion box that we'll be using to organize all of this. And you need to have 3 things in each bit of feedback. First, comments about some positive feedback, comments about aspects of the presentation you thought were well done, making sure you explain why you thought so. Secondly, suggestions about what might make their overall plan more persuasive. And base that, if you can, on the content of the course and your knowledge of the audience. So try and think about what you've learned in the course, cognitive dissonance or effort justification, or the kind of reasoning, central or peripheral, those kinds of things is what we would like to see here. And then finally, ask one question about the change plan that you would like to have answered. Finally, respond to feedback. There will be just a 2-day period where you can review all the feedback on your own presentation and respond to each feedback thoroughly. You know, it depends on what you're asked and how the feedback is, but you can look at, you know, around 100 words, you know, a good paragraph. Making sure that you answer everything, and it may not require that much, or it might require that much. And how? So for grading your project, this is worth 120 points, so the same as all your quizzes combined this semester or all your reflections combined. And so the half of your grade will be based on content, that is the meat of your project. So, and this will be reflected in the grade you receive for your slides. And so your target behavior, so again, I'm referring back to the steps. Your target audience, your message, your plan, and your sourcing. So you can click on the links in the slides to know exactly what I mean, but this is half your grade. And then the delivery and discussion will be the other 50%. So delivery, quality and the care of your project. So timing, is it actually 12 minutes long, plus or minus 1 minute? Is your presentation done well? Do you know what you're talking about and speak articulately on the content of each slide? And do you take care? Does your work demonstrate that you've taken care to attend to details, including proofreading, practicing, and so forth? And then that discussion is another 25% of your grade. So you're going to be attending 3 presentations, and I'll be giving you grades on how well you provide feedback. So your feedback to each presenter needs to include what you thought was very good in their plan, a suggestion to make the plan better, based on psychology preferably, so something about what you've learned in these chapters, and C, a question related to the plan. And then the other part of this discussion points will be how you respond to questions. So do you respond thoughtfully and responsibly to others' comments on your presentation, clarifying and adding information as needed?